Hi, Tom from bknutrition.com, and today I want to talk about 5 exercises for biceps which you may not know, may not have tried, or simply just forgotten, but they are excellent builders for the biceps. Now, while I'm going through this video, there are going to be some clips playing just here, so you can go back, and also you can find these videos on my YouTube channel. They'll be uploaded as a single exercise that you can just have a look at if you want to. But the exercise is going to be here, so if you are listening on the podcast and you want to know a bit more about these exercises, please come back to this video and you'll be able to view them here, or like the videos on my YouTube channel. So these exercises are not, I would say, the best exercises to do for building biceps. That's generally going to be stuff like barbell curls, that sort of thing. But so many people do those exercises in their workouts and they don't add any variety and no variation, and sometimes biceps can become a boring exercise, a boring body part to train, I should say. Now you might be thinking, oh, I never get tired of training biceps. However, if you're all still doing the same exercise every single time for biceps, which is normally people will do some sort of like either cable bicep curl, or they do some standing barbell bicep curl, or maybe some dumbbell curls, that's generally where people sit with their bicep training. And there are so many other exercises you can do which you can hit from different angles, place different stress on the muscle. And if you're doing these exercises in addition to these other I would say the sort of core exercises, you're going to get more interest in it. You're going to target the muscle a bit better, and you're going to give your muscles a sort of a different type of stimulus in terms of growth. So over the course of my bodybuilding career, I've done all these exercises. I rate all of them, otherwise they wouldn't be in this video, of course. And they're worth incorporating into your training every now and again, just to give a bit of spice to your training, because we want to make sure exercise is fun. It's my second principle. Exercise should be fun at all times. It should never be boring. It should never be a chore to do. So the first exercise is spider curls. Spider curls generally would do off a bench, although you can do them standing as well. Spider curls you can do with a dumbbell, or you can do with a barbell. I'm not sure which video is going to upload up here, but generally I would do these with a dumbbell. The reason is because with a barbell I have issues with my elbow tendons, and a straight barbell can cause certain issues with those. So I generally don't do them for spider curls. Spider curls should be done with your arms away from your body slightly, and the idea is that you're letting them hang away from the body, so you can't pull with your shoulders, which is what a lot of people do with their bicep exercises. When they're curling, they use their shoulders to lift the bar or the dumbbell or whatever right at the end of the movement. With spider curls, because your arms are already away from the body, you've got less strength. You really can't apply that sort of movement at the end of it. Excuse me. And it does give you a really good stretch on the bicep as well. So it's one of those exercises that you don't want to do huge amounts of weight in, and you couldn't do huge amount of weights anyway. You'd end up cheating and moving the arms and stuff like that. Make sure the arm is steady throughout. The only thing that should be moving is the forearm and the flexion at the elbow. It should never be the arm moving forward or back, or sort of the upper arm moving forward or back through the movement. And this will give you a really killer contraction on the top, on the peak of the bicep. Really will make you feel the exercise. So it's one that I would do potentially as a finishing exercise after I've done all my other bicep stuff, or as a sort of an isolation stroke activation exercise maybe before you do your main bicep curls. So it's something you could do at both ends of the spectrum. If you're doing it as a first exercise, be wary that you're going to be cold, and putting your biceps under that stress might, if you go too heavy, might cause an injury. So just be wary of that. Number 2 is single arm cable curls. This is a real one for the mirror. It's a good ego booster. You can get a good amount of look at the muscles while you're training. That's not why I do them, although that does feature in my decision to do these exercises. The idea of the cable curls, especially the single arm, allows you to isolate down the contraction into one arm at a time in order to contract it. Now, because you're holding your arm down, you've got the maximum pull of gravity there, and you're pulling your arm up into the contraction point. Now, make sure that you're only going to sort of 90 degrees or just over 90 degrees when you're curling up. The major mistake people make with this exercise is that when they get to the top of the movement, they think they have to lift the weight even higher higher, and what they do is they move their arm forward and their elbow tracks past their hips, and that then takes the pressure off the biceps and puts it more towards the top of the shoulder here. So make sure your arm is fixed all the way through and only flexing through 90 degrees or just slightly more than that. That way you will get a better contraction. You can get a really good constant tension on the muscle here, so it's good as a warm-up, it's good as a finishing exercise as well. Third one would be high cable curls. This is generally one that I do as a first exercise for biceps. The idea of going high and having your elbows high is that it extends the long head of the biceps, so you can get, I suppose, more peak if that's what you're looking for. If you want to focus more on the peak of the bicep, although that is generally a genetic thing. If you have big peaks or not, it's generally genetic. I don't have huge peaks on my bicep, but the belly of my muscle is thick, so it looks good from the side and looks okay in this position. Some people, when they do this exercise, like Ronnie Coleman, if you look at his, have like peaks for days. It looks like a mountain coming up the side, coming up the top of the bicep. But this exercise will help isolate out the long head of the bicep. Now, people do this exercise wrong by trying to do some sort of bicep curl combined with some sort of chest contraction. So what you'll find is that people do this exercise where they have their arm out here, and as they come into the movement, they'll pull it across their body to try and get the contraction. If you're doing that, you've got too much weight on the bar. This is not a really heavyweight exercise. It's one to force the muscle to contract in an isolated position. So you want light weight, especially when you're starting off doing this right. One trick I do is I step slightly forward. So when my arms they're being almost pulled backwards slightly by the cable machine, that will help some way to preventing you pulling your elbows across your body. But if you do find that you're trying to pull your elbows up or you're pulling them across the body, you've got too much weight on. So don't do that. You're not doing the bicep there, you're just doing, I suppose, a bit of chest, a bit of shoulders, something like that. So make sure you are doing the exercise right as it's shown in the video. Number 4 is a double bicep dumbbell curl. This is something I really like doing. I have, like I said before, issues with my elbow tendon on here. If I start flexing my bicep and I use a straight bar, that can cause real issues later on with an inflammation in my elbow. Now, that might just be my genetics, it might just be years and years of training, but if you're experiencing the same problem, you can get a really good bicep curl with a dumbbell by doing a dumbbell, almost like you're doing the same movement as you would with a bar, but you're doing it with a dumbbell. The advantage here is obviously you get the isolateral movement, so you've got each arm has to independently balance, so you can make sure you can correct any sort of weaknesses in each arm by doing it independently. But also you've got that little bit of freedom of movement around the elbow, as well, so that if you have got an injury, you can sort of work around it or maybe move your arms in slightly. It also allows a little bit more of I would say freedom of movement around the shoulders. So it's one of those exercises that is a good exercise. I would use this as one of my core exercises. I generally wouldn't do this and like a bar curl as well, because they're essentially the same exercise, but I potentially would to say do this exercise and then with a spider curl as well, because they're slightly different. And the last one is a preacher single arm curl. Now, many people do preacher curl with a bar and they do it sort of leant over the preacher curl machine. I'm not a fan of that movement. Mostly because it places a lot of pressure on my shoulder, and I've had a couple of shoulder surgeries. So I like to do preacher curls single arm. Now, I do this either on a machine or with a dumbbell over a normal preacher bench. And the idea, and also you can do it standing. Now, standing, which is what the video will feature, is a really good way of targeting the muscle. It allows you a good amount of drop, so you can get a decent amount of gravity pulling against the arm there. But also standing, I feel a bit more secure. Whenever I'm seated doing a preacher curl, I always feel that my shoulders are being pulled and my back's being pulled a little bit more. It's not a natural position for me. If I'm standing, I can get that slight lean into the exercise so I can support myself better. So a standing single arm preacher curl is one of the sort of best finishing exercises that I do. I wouldn't do this at the beginning of your workout, because if you do, it's likely, if you go too heavy, because you'll be fresh, that you potentially put an injury onto your shoulder. But also it's one of those exercises that you don't really want to go super heavy on. It's just a rep exercise. It's something you would do for say 10 to 15 reps really. So you could really, when you're coming up to the top of the movement, you can really squeeze the movement and squeeze the arm to get that contraction. Again, don't try and pull your arm up so that you get more range of motion or movement, because it will just take it off the bicep. So as long as when you're on this movement, make sure that the tricep is always on the bench. So you're always touching the bench with your tricep. That will keep you in the position you need to be in. So that's my 5 bicep building exercises. Obviously there are loads of other exercises you can do for biceps, and this isn't a 5 best exercises. It's just 5 exercises that you might not be aware of, might not have done, and I might have forgotten. And it's sometimes nice to revisit these exercises when you're training on a bit of variation. So I hope the video helped. I hope this information helped. Please like, share if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next video. And incidentally, these all exercises are available in my weight training, I think, or weight building, muscle building playlist. If you want to go and watch more of those, just go to the playlist. I'll link that at the end, so you can watch the other videos if you want to. There's all the body parts covered there, chest, back, etc. So you can have a good look through for some different ideas. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you the next time.